Hi, Anton from Volograms, and this is a quick video tutorial for Windows users for how to get your captured volograms into the Wavefront OBJ format of file. And that's really useful if you want to use captured volograms from the Volu app in other projects. So if you're making a 3D video game in Unity 3D, for example, and you want to use yourself as the main character, you can definitely do that. If you'd like to 3D print a vologram you've captured, you can do that too. And this is the approach you want to use for getting it into that more common format. So everything loads Wavefront OBJs. Okay, so what you want to do first is download a tool we've made to help you do that. So go to our GitHub, which is github.com/volograms, and you'll see several open source projects that we host there. Volcl tools is the command line tools. That's what you want. Click on that. Because we're on Windows, we don't need to worry about source code or building the code or anything like that. So just click on releases on the right-hand side, and we bundle or build releases for Windows here that you can run directly. The latest version at the time of this video is 0.6.0. You'll see that at the top, and you'll get a brief changelog of the changes since the previous version and a list of files. You don't need the source code files. Just download the first one there, Volcl tools with the version number .zip, and then put that on your computer somewhere. So I've downloaded that already. I have that in this folder here. And if you're not seeing the extension on your Windows Explorer, it's quite handy to do that when you're working with file types and conversions. So just go to the View tab and then hit this checkbox here, File Name Extensions, and it'll show the end of the file name there. Okay, the other thing I have there is this folder, and that's a vologram capture from the Volu app. If you need help with exporting your vologram captures from the app in this format, just say hi on the Discord and ask for a hand, and we'll show you how to do that. They'll probably come to you as a zip file as well. Just unzip that into a folder. And you'll see it has quite an unusual long name here. That's the unique code for your vologram. You can actually go ahead and rename that to something shorter and more meaningful. I'm going to call it Cali for California, and you're going to see why shortly. Inside your vologram folder, you're going to see several files: a header file, a sequence file, one or more texture files, and you may get a skeleton file as well, which will help you if you want to rig your character for use in a video game project or in a small animation. If you know anything about 3D rigging, in Blender 3D or in Blender, for example, there is an automatic function for binding your 3D models to a skeleton. That could come in really handy. Okay, but you don't necessarily need that right now. So as long as you've got these three files here, that's fine. One or more texture files, a header and a sequence is enough. So unzip your command line tools zip file into a folder. I'm going to use a program called 7-zip. But if you're on Windows, right-click on it, hit Extract All. So I'm just going to use 7-zip to do the same thing. And I'm just going to let it spit out to a folder. Okay, so if I open this folder, you'll see it's got some libraries that we use to run the program. We've got a samples folder that has some files that we really just use for testing things are working. So you probably won't need those. And then you have the vol2obj.exe program built for Windows. And that's all we're going to need at the moment. So to make things easier, I'm actually going to drag this Kali folder into the tool folder here. So it's up the top. That's just going to make things a little bit easier to refer to as we use this tool. So this is a command line tool, but on Windows it does support a drag and drop feature. So if I drag this folder onto the .exe, you'll see a window popped up there saying it was doing something. And that will spit out three files: an OBJ, an MTL, and a JPEG. And you'll see why it was quite handy to show the file name extensions to differentiate these. The OBJ, that's your Wavefront OBJ mesh file. The MTL links that together with a texture file, and the .jpeg is used as a texture. So this has got a really long number of zeros there, and that's because it's only spat out the first frame. Which is really nice for a preview, but it's really only giving you a snapshot of the whole vologram. And so I'm just going to double click on this because Windows these days has a built-in 3D model viewer, and we can get a preview of what that's going to look like. Right, so I can see that the mesh has worked, the texture has worked, and if you zoom in there, you'll see It says California, which is why I've called it Cali. And having a t-shirt with text on it, I find is a really handy way to make sure things are the right way around in your project and not back to front or inside out or mirrored in some way. Because every tool has its own coordinate conventions, and it's just really nice to be able to double check that. Okay, so that may be enough for some projects, but perhaps in your capture you have a longer sequence and you want to be able to pick the best frame from it, or you have a particular pose you'd like to use, or maybe you want to use several frames to build an animation yourself. That's all possible. And what you need to do there, though, to get more detail with this tool is to open a console terminal window. If you double click on it, it won't do anything because it's supposed to be run from the command line. So I'm just going to right click on the start menu there, hit run, and now Windows has two terminals you can use. You can type in CMD to use the old-fashioned terminal, or you can type in PowerShell, not PowerShell, and it will open something that looks like this. And this is the new Windows command line interface. At the top there's a whole bunch of error message stuff. You don't need to worry about that. And then it says PS, and it has a prompt that's flashing. And it says the current, PS for PowerShell, the current working directory is the C drive, the users folder, and then my user folder within that. But that's not where the tool is. So I want to change this to the tools folder. So if I click back to Explorer, if you click in the address bar here, at the moment it has a rough indication of where it is, but if you want the exact path, click inside that and it'll give you the whole thing there. C drive, users, Anton desktop, new folder, da da da. So I want this folder to be the working directory. So right click on that, hit copy. Okay, now the command to change directories is CD. If you do CD by itself, it does nothing. If you do CD, a space, and then give it an argument, which is an input, you should be able to right click that because we've copy pasted that to the clipboard, and there it is. Now, we're already in the C drive, so it might complain about this. Yes, so we can just hit CD, and you know what, I'm just going to type this in because it's not far away. Desktop, and you can actually partially complete things in a terminal, so desk tab, if you hit tab, it'll fill it out for you, and you see it's put it in the kind of format it wants. Desktop, new, and I'm just going to type new and hit tab, new folder, and then let's see if it goes the whole way there. Yes, so I hit tab again. So that's actually pretty quick, and you'll find the tab autocomplete quite handy. Okay, now we're in the folder we want. The command to list what's actually in that folder, just in case you want to check you're really in the right place, is dir, hit enter, and it'll list things there. So at the bottom of this list, you'll see it's got vol to obj.exe. Great, we're in the same folder now. That's where I want to be. We've also got that Cali folder up there, which had our Vologram in it. That's great. So if I now type in, now on PowerShell, I believe you're going to hit dot, and then I think backslash, and then vol, and I hit tab. So if it's in the same directory, it likes a more Unixy style these days, where you hit dot and a slash. On the older CMD console, you don't need to do this. You just type in vol to obj. So if I just hit enter there, okay, you'll see it says, okay, I have run. It spat out some output, but it said, hey, you've not given me any instructions. So you need to tell me which file I should take as input, or which files, and then what you want me to do with it. So it's giving you a fairly standard kind of command line tool message there that it's saying, okay, yes, you've given me the path. You can optionally give me some flags after giving me or calling my own command, and then you must give it a -h followed by a header file to use, and then -s followed by a sequence file to use, and then -v followed by a video file to use, right? So it's getting a little bit more involved now. And then it actually lists all the optional parameters you can give it there. Okay, so what these will do is let you indicate, hey, I want not just the first frame like we got already, I want all the frames. Or you could otherwise say, actually I want a specific set of frames. I want only frame number 10, or I want frames between 0 being the first frame and 100. And you could use F and L followed by numbers, where you put the frame number in to do that. You can also say, hey, I don't want a real mess of these things all in the same folder here. Put them out to another folder. And so those are all options. And the reason you've got this much detail is because if you've got a whole series of these that you want to do in one go with a command line tool, it's really easy to script that or write a batch file. So if you've got, for example, a class project and everyone in the class has a vologram and they want to convert all of them in one go, you can do that using the command line tool with one script invocation, for example. So that's pretty typical kind of command line usage. So what we need to do here is a little bit more work. If you hit up, it should repeat the last command that you've given it. So I'm going to say the same thing again, except I'm going to give some of these parameters. So I'm going to go space, and I'm going to go, you know what, I want every single frame. So I can pick my favorite frame from there and use that for my 3D printing, for example. So if I go dash dash all, that's indicating I want all of the frames. And then, you know what, I'm going to output them to another subdirectory because I don't want it to mess up this one with even more frames. Output directory, and I'm going to say, I'm going to call it out Cali all. Hit space, right? So I've given it two command line parameters. One that said every frame, one that said spit it out to this directory. Now I have to give it the following parameters. These are not optional. So I have to tell it a header file to use, a sequence file to use. So the -h followed by the path to the header file, which was this Cali folder that we made up here. So it's Cali, and then backslash for Windows, and then the name of that file in there was header. So I'm just going to show you what was in there. So their header, sequence 0, and then texture. So I'm just going to type in H and then press tab, and it will fill that out for me. Okay, and then space, and then I'm going to do -s for sequence, space, and then Cali, and then I'm going to do S, and then tab, fills it out, that's great. And then the last parameter I believe was V. So space, and then -v, and then the same again, Cali, and then it starts with a T. If you've got more than one texture file in there, you can pick the one you want. So just make sure the file name matches the file name you want. So you might have several texture resolutions. And that's fine. So that should dump all of that out to a new folder for us. So I'm just going to hit enter, and that's going to work away. And you can see it's writing numbered files for all of the different frames. So volograms are usually about 30 frames a second. So for a longer vologram, there could be quite a lot of frames there. And I'm just going to leave this whirring away for a second. Now, if I go back to my main tool directory, you can see that it's actually created that new directory I wanted to spit it out to, out Cali all. And if I open that, you can see it's filling this up actually. So we can just confirm, because we've got that triplicate there for frame number 0. So these three all match. If I double click on that, yeah, so we've got that same 3D capture again. And if we scroll down, we can see we've got about 140 frames, I think it said. Yeah, there we go. So it's just finished in the background here, and it said vologram processing completed. The last frame is 149. It starts at frame 0. That means we have 150 frames in total. So let's look at the last frame. And you could take your time looking through all of these if you wish to. Maybe that's a nice one to use for the starting a video game character, because it's a nice neutral pose. So I might take that into Blender 3D. I might want to touch it up a little bit. Maybe some of the texture on the back is a bit basic. You probably have a better back texture these days, and your vologram captures. Maybe I want to touch this up a bit, paint in 3D on it, and then it's probably ready to go for a hobby video game. I might want to get the skeleton in it and rig it and animate it, and then I can start having it climbing ladders and running and this kind of thing, and that could be quite fun. The other thing you might want to do is, because the frames are numbered, there are plugins, of course, for things like Blender, and you can actually run an OBJ animation in Blender to use in your film projects if you wish to, or your animation projects. So you can have a lot of fun with it, and you can pick the frames you want, of course. So yeah, that's it. If you have any problems with this, or if it's hotly demanded that we need to start making Mac releases of this tool as well, let us know on the Discord, and we'll see what we can do.